Tony Blair is back.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry. Once again.
Sorry to say, he never actually
He never left. Exactly. The meme is true.
Fresh from the pits of hell, a whiff of sulphur appears.
Indeed. This was posted yesterday by the Tony Blair Institute. He seems to crop up every time a crisis, quote unquote, occurs, and is now pushing once again for digital IDs. This is nothing new.
We want to watch this.
If we could, I'm sorry
We
to put
cannot
everyone
continue with business
through it.
as usual, and change is inevitable. This is where technology, like digital ID, becomes critical. My institute's own analysis shows that introducing this in the UK would save at least $2 billion a year and likely more by reducing losses to fraud, improving tax collection, and better targeting of state support.
It
Indeed.
looks like Skeletor.
I'm sorry.
does.
And Tony Blair's own institute would never produce studies supporting the thing that he already wants, right?
By the way, the Lotus Eaters Institute has realised actually lowering immigration would be very good on all sorts of things.
The Lotus Eaters Institute also said that if you subscribe to Lotus Eaters, you'll actually be saving money in the long run.
It's scientifically proven.
Indeed. Do you mind if I borrow the...
Oh, no, go
Is
ahead.
that all right? Thank you very much. Just quickly.
Sorry,
Bring-
borrow the what? The house cat?
I couldn't think for a second then. But obviously, we've all been following Blair for quite a long time and trying to make sense, really, of what he's up to. And he seems to crop up every single time, like we've mentioned, every time a particular crisis or something has happened. And he's trying to use this as a justification for things such as digital identification, setting up an infrastructure for other things such as facial recognition, which is becoming transitioning from a conspiracy quote theory to reality now.
Well, you already see it in supermarkets. I went into an Asda recently where I looked up and they had the security screen that you can see yourself in, and the first thing that happened was a big green box highlighted my face. So I can only assume that that was some kind of facial recognition scanning going on. And in terms of what
I had to do it going onto the plane coming back from America.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And in terms of what Tony Blair is after, I think it's pretty clear that what he's after is the technocratic state.
Indeed.
China-style facial recognition network, so you're never not monitored.
Exactly. Tony Blair said in this article, well, it says, bring in digital IDs to get tough on populism. The former Labour Prime Minister, who backs identity technology systems and facial recognition, believes the public will gladly sacrifice privacy for efficiency.
Probably right.
I was going to say, for a significant enough portion of the population,
Probably.
he is right.
Probably right.
It says, quote, what the populists do is they take a real grievance and they exploit it, but they very often don't want to have a solution because solutions are much tougher than talking about problems, Blair says.
Shots fired at Farage right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Farage is like, well, I'm not going to do mass deportations.
Yeah.
I'm just going to talk about illegal immigration forever.
Says the grievance would be on immigration, that the thing is out of control. The grievance would be on crime, that we're not doing enough on it. So you say, okay, here's what you do. And then you have a big political fight. The populist is forced to choose. You've got to create an agenda that the other side has to respond to.
Yes, this has been the complete failing of Nigel Farage, actually.
I agree. Totally agree.
Tony Blair is literally calling him out here, exactly as you say.
Well, Tony Blair is laying out, he's not even being subtle about it. It's like, okay, you want to be an effective political operator, here's what you do.
Yeah.
And so many people on the populist right, just because it's coming from Tony Blair, will stick their fingers in their ears and say, la, 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 I can't hear you, instead of actually taking what is effective advice.
Yeah, he's a modern-day Saul Alinsky. He knows what he's doing.
It seems the goalpost with this seems to move quite a lot. I think we all remember this particular speech when he was at the World Economic Forum talking about a digital infrastructure. If we just play that just briefly.
You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure, and many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
So it's very clear. He's very, very keen on it and has been for a long time.
It's been a bugbear of his for decades now.
He's wanted to push this through. Coincidentally, recently, friend of mine posted this, and you were mentioning air travel as well. Efrat done a really great thread on the recent news that there'll be no boarding passes, no privacy, and it'll be the new face of travel. Big changes are coming to global air travel. The UN's aviation body plans to eliminate boarding passes, check-ins, and even physical passports, replacing them with facial recognition and digital credentials.
There is a part of me that hates traveling because of the check-ins, boarding passes, and all of the hassle of that. Facial recognition is going to win over the normies by just being convenient.
I know. Unfortunately,
genuinely going to do it.
It's scary as well. To put it mildly, and you can see it. It's with the infrastructure. It doesn't just start with convenience. It then expands and expands, and this happens with a lot of legislation. It's like building a tank, right? You take Parliament as a state as like a tank. You're putting all these weapons and stuff onto it to use as self-defense, and then it just aims at its own citizens. So we can already see it, that this can be completely abused in the long term.
No, not can. Will be completely abused. I mean, imagine how quickly Keir Starmer is going to find those people who posted something that he doesn't like on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, my God.
But there's obviously plenty of evidence. The UK government website, if you really want to bore yourself with, has all the frameworks, has everything that you need to know. You don't even need to pull it off of random sites of Google. It's all there, enabling the use of digital identities in the UK, secure connected places. This is another thing it ties into. Secure connected places, otherwise known as smart cities.
Okay.
Yes. Unfortunately, the infrastructure is actually already here, and we are paying for it. Things such as the behavioral insights. Sorry, forgive me. The nudge units, the behavioral insight teams, such as the nudge units that push narratives using various technologies and, of course, using mass media control. But here's another thing. As you know, I've been doing some freedom of information requests on lots of different subjects, and one of them I found and I had a reply to, and I didn't know what to do with it. I put in an FOI request into AI infrastructure and how much are we paying, or the state is paying, to bring in things such as flexible microchips to be used for these frameworks. And last month I actually received a response. And £60 million of public money went to a thing called Pragmatic Semiconductor, who makes flexible microchips used in radio frequency identification, or RFID, smart ID cards, and track and trace systems. The DSIT is funding AI infrastructure, security frameworks, and AI assurance programs. And these enable digital ID enforcement, biometric surveillance, smart city monitoring, and centralized behavioral tracking. And to me, like I've mentioned at the bottom, it just looks like a foundation of a social control grid.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason that they're doing it. If they didn't give them extra control over society, what would be the point of it?
Exactly. And I looked up about Pragmatic Semiconductor, and sorry for using Wiki as a source, but it gives the old it gives the download a bit easier for this. It's a UK-based flexible microchip maker with its headquarters located in Cambridge. It recently received £128 million in total, and it's the largest ever financing for a European chip company. And it was founded in 2010, so it's been going on for quite a while, and it's an ultra low cost, flexible integrated circuits technology. They're thinner than a human hair, can be bent, and are able to be embedded inside objects like product packaging, and they are then assessed through radio interference technology. And I didn't quite know what that was. I'd never heard of it before.
The RFID.
Yeah, I'd never really looked into it as much. But
these are the chips in your passports and stuff, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. And whilst I was looking through that, there were some things that I was reading that I thought, was a little bit scary. It says RFID uses electromagnetic fields to automatically identify and track tags attached to objects. An RFID system consists of a tiny radio transponder called a tag, a radio receiver, and a transmitter. When triggered by an electromagnetic interrogation pulse from a nearby RFID reader device, the tag transmits digital data, usually an identifying inventory number, back to a reader. A primary RFID security concern is the illicit tracking of RFID tags which are world readable, pose a risk to both personal location privacy and corporate/military security. So they're all already talking about how it's a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
It can be used to track you across the world, potentially.
Essentially. The readers can potentially use RFID information to identify or track packages, persons, carriers, or the contents of a package. Several prototype systems are being developed to combat unauthorized reading, including RFID signal interruption, as well as the possibility of legislation, and 700 scientific papers have been published on this matter since 2002. So there's plenty, well, you've got plenty of reading out there to look into what's being done. But I thought it was interesting to bring up the 60 million funding. Some of that was exempt, I must say, from that Freedom of Information request, because because we're competing with the likes of China, the EU, and America. They didn't release some of the information because it was commercial interests. So there's some conflict there. But essentially, digital ID is basically already here, and unfortunately, we are all funding it.
So one thing I find interesting about this is the fact that they're so flexible, right? They can be put in anything. Essentially, what this is going to be an attempt to do is to identify everything. Right?
Yes.
So literally everything, every object will be tracked, and the point being a massive data harvesting operation. Yes. So whatever the central power that is, operating all of this is, will basically be able to create a kind of 3D map of of everything in the world. Is the purpose of it, which is, I mean, you've got to admire the scope of what they're asking for.
Pretty sure that's the end of the Dark Knight, isn't it?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
You've not watched it? Oh, fair play. Oh, well, they use phone.
I'm not a comic guy.
They hack into loads of basically everybody in the city's phones to create a 3D digital real-time map of the city by sending out radio frequencies.
But that's basically what they're going to be able to do with all of this.
Yes, yeah. And even in the film, the guy who sets it up turns to Batman and he's like, "This is way too much power for one man. You can't do this," because they use it to track down the villains. And he's like, "The second that we're done with this, I'm switching this off. You're never using this again."
And this is exactly what the justification, like you say, it's going to be, well, you got to worry about crime and immigrants and this, we'll bring it all in. And then suddenly the government literally has a virtual but accurate map of everything in the country.
And this is why a lot of people are theorizing that it's the reason why politicians are allowing stuff like this to happen, to usher in something else, such as this.
So much.
I know, and I was reading some of the comments after posting the infrastructure and the 60 million funding.
Yeah,
and people were just there like, what do we do?
What can be done?
We can't. There's nothing. It's already here, and I'm sorry to say it. I don't know. I don't really have a solution for opting out of that sort of thing unless you want to go off grid. But
I mean, how long are they going to let that happen?
Yeah, exactly.
And
homeschooling's gone.
What does that even look like?
Yeah, in England.
Well, you move to the middle of a tiny woodland, and then
live like a savage.
And then the government knocks it down for new builds.
It's
10 years.
You can only have 9 chickens as well before they arrest you.
It's literally going to end up being the end of Brave New World, where John the Savage runs off into the woods in England somewhere, and he's used as a kind of carnival spectacle, where the people from the civilization come and look at the savage man living in nature until he eventually just hangs himself. He doesn't want to be a spectacle for these people. So
well, that's fun.
Yeah. So I know, unfortunately, after finding out that it's not a surprise really that we're already funding the infrastructure and it's out of our pocket, not anything else. Yeah.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.